How would you rate the current city staff based on what you know about them?
Honestly, I can't rate the staff. I mean, my main issue, and just by reading your newspaper and any articles I can get my hands on, tell me that there's really not a problem with the staff. I just think maybe it's, and I don't even want to use the word mismanaged, but the focus needs to all be on the end goal. And so if we come in and we start saying, we're going to work on this, let's change this just a little bit, let's fix something here, then maybe we can all get to that same goal, and the city council meeting will be the agenda that we vote on at that actual meeting, instead of working on it here or behind the scenes, or I don't know about any of that stuff, so I can't really speak on behalf of anything that's happened behind the scenes. I've heard things, but I have not seen it, so I can't really comment on that.
And I guess up to this point, you've been basically a user of city services. How would you rate the experience you've had as a resident in terms of using services, and also a consumer of the information they give out? I know communication has been a big issue on city council meetings and something residents have been talking about. Does the city do a good job of communicating with residents? How have you felt as a resident, and do you believe that they're doing that well?
I think that I'm a different kind of resident or citizen, because if I read something and I wonder about it, I actively pursue that until I understand what they're talking about. I know a lot of people will take things on face value. I don't think that that's the best thing to do unless you really just don't care either way. But if there's a question that comes up or a statement that I don't understand, I have no problem picking up the phone. We're not a big city. It's not hard to talk to someone. 2 phone calls and you've probably got them. And then you can kind of talk it out and figure out what's going on. We've had a lot of that at the foundation. I've gotten emails. I answer the email. It's done. It's not something that we need to drag on for months and months. But as for services, I've called the police maybe twice since I've been here, and they've been right there. And I'm glad that they were. And I would hate to see someone cut that service to where, well, it'll be between 30 and 45 minutes before we can get a cop out to your house, when it's an immediate threat to me. So when it comes to, cutting services or trying to cut taxes, I think that there's alternate ways we can cut taxes without cutting those really vital services, because you never know when you're going to have to call 911, and you don't want to be put on hold. So.
Sure.
As you campaign, what type of feedback are you getting from people as far as the issues they'd like to see City Council to address?
The most prevalent question or response or suggestion I get is, do something. And last night at the forum, that's how I closed my remarks, was whoever you vote for, at least go and vote. Show up. We haven't had more than 1,200 people at a single election, and you can't complain if you didn't vote. That's how I've always been raised. If you didn't vote, you have no right to complain because you didn't go make your voice heard. So when it comes to excuse me, when it comes to people telling me what they'd like me to do, it's go in there, break up the good old boys club, and let's get some stuff done. Whether it's this project, this project, this project, at least let's see some proactivity instead of all this reactiveness that we've obviously seen in all the forums so far. And luckily last night I wasn't too involved in the reactiveness, but we need to start being proactive with our decision making and actually see things done, because I think that once people start seeing things actually finished and not just hyped up and talked about, then they're going to have a little more trust in the City Council.
When you look at, I know there's going to be a major change in May of who's actually on council, but when you look at the members who are staying and who you might potentially be working with, what do you perceive about what that dynamic might be and whether or not you would be able to work well with those people?
Well, as long, and this is This is the best way I can think to say it. As long as I'm sitting in a room with people that have common sense, I think we can probably work together well. I'm a sociology major. I studied groups my whole life. My job is all about the studying of groups and demographics and what they prefer and what they like and what doesn't work. But I can honestly tell you that if I sit in a room where there's people that are open to discussion and we can have a healthy disagreement or a healthy agreement, then I am totally okay with that, because that's the way you get the best decision, is by having the pros and the cons and working through it and coming to some sort of agreement between the two. You can't just dictate. You have to give and take. So
I didn't know that about your background as far as education. I know that even just as a newspaper, sometimes it's hard to get a feel for what this community wants and what this community is thinking. Do you think that your background will in any way help you or be to your advantage when it comes to listening to people, or do you have any particular approach on how to just gauge what the community wants on particular issues?
I think the best way to do it is to ask. I mean, even with my job, that's what I do all day is I ask, what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? Was any of this offensive to you? Did it help you in any way? Did it create a question in your mind? It's a group of all of those things that kind of come together to gauge the response of the community. And that's why I love the forums or the get-togethers or the meetings, because then you actually get to hear what people say. And the best people to listen to are the ones who read the paper like I do. And if you have a question, you call. Or if you have something that you're not sure about, you ask someone about it. And then you have an informed question to ask. I know last night I was asked, and one of the questions last night was, are you for or against keeping Kerrville beautiful? Well, how do you answer that? Yes, let's keep Kerrville beautiful. I don't think that that's even something that needs to come across City Council. That's something that needs to be a volunteer-based organization. If it needs funding, it needs to be a fundraiser type private funding issue. It's not something we need to sit at council and spend an hour talking about whether or not we want to keep Kerrville beautiful. Yes, we all want Kerrville to be beautiful. It's how you go about doing it that is what I'm the most interested in.
And so I guess that could be one of those things that you mentioned earlier, no pet projects.
Yes.
So could you see yourself putting an agenda item on the agenda and for something that you wanted to start, or are you looking to get more direction from staff?
It just depends. I mean, things change weekly around here. If the pavilion comes up, then we'll deal with the pavilion. If the library comes up, we'll deal with the library. But I'm not going to sit here and honestly tell you that either one is great until I've got all the facts. I know that the pavilion was started with less than enough funding, and that's what we get. You actually do get what you pay for. So we can't always come to the rescue to people who start things with good intentions but haven't followed all the necessary steps to do it. But we also can't discount good people who are trying to do something good and not give them the opportunity to fulfill that.